Dusty is a busy man. Chris, you referred to his face as a basketball junkie, and he is my oh my. Is he ever getting after it right now? Looks like Mike Boynton is ready to join this staff. Akeem Miskadeen from Georgia is going to join. I believe you reported earlier that Kyle Church, I believe, is maybe that third guy. So why don't you start us off with where things stand there? And also, they posted that special assistant to the head coach job a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you have any insight on that either, but it seems like things are starting to come together. And, you have people on the message board or people on social media saying, oh, well, the coaching staff's all fine and good, but they need to put a roster together. It's April 8th. But where are things at right now with all that?
And it's a dead period, right? So a lot of these guys are going to start visiting. Dante Maddox Jr. from Toledo is going to be visiting next week. Connor Sejan, we've heard, is going to be visiting next week. So they're starting to line up visits. We've heard really good things about Vlad Golden coming, 7-foot center. That's a great place to start, right? Great piece to have if you're going to build a team. I think Namari Burnett's going to be coming back. We had heard that he could enter the NBA draft just to kind of get some feedback and then come back to school. I'm not sure. I don't think I've seen his name there yet, following the Terrence Williams Jr. path, but I do expect him back. So there are going to be some pieces there. Got to get a point guard. Janelle Davis is in demand, fellas. This could be a tough pull. And in fact, Dusty May has been telling people, hey, yeah, probably one or two guys coming from Florida Atlantic. I think the two depends on what happens with Davis, but they need a guard. And I've seen some. Didn't you guys see the numbers, like $1 million or something they said that he might command, which I think is ridiculous. I think that's probably inflated. But at the same time, it's clear that there are other schools with money to spend out there. Louisville is not going to be holding anything back. They're going to be trying to get some guys like Davis into the fold. So Michigan's going to have their work cut out for them. But I will say this, nobody's going to work harder than Dusty May. I think we've seen that in the early going. One of my buddies who used to work with him at Eastern Michigan said, you're not going to believe the work ethic on this guy. And that's exactly what we have seen from him. He's been in to see Danny Wolf at Yale. So he's also been in to see, I think he was in to see Maddox. Somebody spotted him in Toledo. So excited about the future of Michigan basketball again at the end of last year. I'll be honest, guys. What'd you see me at 4 games last year? If that. And I think I left 2 of them early. So, or at least before the final press conference. So I was done with it. And I think a lot of other people were too.
Yeah, I like the way the staffs come together. It's kind of interesting. You wondered if it was going to be his entire staff from Florida Atlantic or if it was going to be, maybe Sadie Washington staying. Well, it's, a little bit of a mix, but no holdovers. It seems like, we'll see what happens with the support staff either way as well. But Mike Boynton, a guy who's been a head coach, a really high-level recruiter, just a great relationship guy. I talked to an Oklahoma State writer last week who, had really good things to say just about the kind of person he is. His wife, Jenny, was the nutritionist on staff as well. I wonder if, they'll hire her to a similar role here at Michigan. She was a star volleyball player at West Ottawa High School on the west side of the state. So he has ties there, even though he's, a New York guy through and through. But, apparently, he's kind of a chameleon, can kind of fit in wherever. And the fact that he was so beloved, even though they weren't winning enough at Oklahoma State, tells you what kind of a person he is. And then Akeem Miskadeen from Georgia, one of those guys that helped build Florida Atlantic that, could be an X factor in that Nelly Davis recruitment because he brought him to Boca Raton and has a great relationship to him. Now everyone's seen the photo, the now famous photo of Akeem Miskadeen, hugging Nelly Davis after the Elite Eight game against Kansas State last year. That's the type of relationship they have. And he was on the Georgia staff at the time, but he was there watching and supporting those guys. And then Cal Church as well, another guy who's been with Dusty for a long time. So known friends and trusted agents coming. And then Mike Boynton, who was kind of like that best available type of guy, right? And I think that said a lot about Dusty May and what he wants to build, that he's not just bringing – it would have been easy to just bring everyone from Boca Raton to Ann Arbor, but he wants the best. And, I feel like he's starting to show that.
I thought you made a great post on the message board about that, Clay. It would have been easy. Just say, hey, I'm bringing my guys with me.
Right.
Instead, he went out and got some elite recruiters. It's going to be a mix. Kyle Church is somebody that Dusty May was talking about to people last night that he's bringing with him. So I think Kyle Church will do a good job here too. And one of his other staffers is director of basketball operations. So still a couple of slots to fill fellas, but I like the way it's coming together more than anything, though. And I'll say it again, as I love the fact that Dusty May is so hands-on. He was actually in a conference call with a lot of donors and former players yesterday and things too. So this guy gets it. This guy understands what it takes to win at this level. There are a lot of guys that don't want to coach in college anymore because they don't want to deal with NIL. They don't want to deal with recruiting. This guy's just the opposite. And this is a type of guy that you need to succeed at this level in this day and age.
Yeah, I want to hone in on the Mike Boynton hire for a second here, because to me, I mean, yeah, I know a lot of people in the immediate aftermath of, you know, a guy like Luke Yaklich coming available. You're like, oh, we'll go get this guy and, you know, put him on staff. They need to focus back on defense. The thing I like the most about Boynton, and again, these Oklahoma State teams, while he recruited well, and obviously he's best known for pulling Cade Cunningham, who was a number one prospect, wound up being the number one overall pick. You know, the thing that I like about his chops is a defensive identity. He's going to be the guy that sets that on that side of the ball. I had the post up here somewhere. This is what happens when I do stuff live and then have a million tabs open. But I think before this year, Oklahoma State had a 3-year stretch where they were in the top 17 or top 20 on defense 3 years in a row. And that's kind of what his team's calling card have been. They've never really been elite offensively. So if you have that guy as kind of your defensive coordinator, obviously also kind of an ace recruiter too, you know, given it wasn't just Cade Cunningham. I think they got like 7 or 8 top, you know, 120 guys, which, you know, Oklahoma State's not exactly a basketball hotbed either. So did a really nice job there overall. Some bigger issues than the job he was doing led to him parting ways with Oklahoma State. But to have that guy on your bench as, you know, your defensive coordinator, he's 42 years old. He's a guy who's got a lot of energy, someone who, you know, again, obviously no ties to Dusty May coming into this job, but when you talk about work ethic and you talk about being tireless on the trail and tireless in building relationships, you know, Dusty and whoever else he brings in to run the offense, they're going to be just fine there. But having that defensive presence, I do have it here now. Oklahoma State had a 3-year stretch where they were 17th, 14th, and 12th, respectively, in defensive efficiency on KenPom. So pretty darn good guy in that regard, if that's going to be what he's in charge of. And with Miskadeen too, I mean, something that has been talked about, obviously the connection with Nellie Davis could help, but he's also the guy that, you know, when Kenai Ruths decommits from Michigan, everyone thought this guy, oh, well, Georgia's in on this guy, and maybe he's going to head to Athens now. Well, Miskadeen is his lead recruiter there. So all of a sudden you kind of rekindle that relationship, and maybe that's a guy you're able to get back in the fold now. So, you know, outside of the obvious on-court implications, with some of these hires, there are obvious, you know, roster building implications as well, which I think shows good conviction with not only helping fill some needs in the short term, but also the long-term vision as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Boynton, it's funny because when he was first announced, you know, reaching out to sources, and they said, well, the ball's still in his court. And that's something that Tony Ortiz wrote at the Detroit Free Press as well. We must have been talking to the same people. But last night, Boynton was actually involved, I guess, in dealing with some people that we know. So is excited to be here, said that there were a lot of places that he could be, right? There were a lot of people that reached out to him, as you guys can probably imagine. And the fact that he chose Dusty May in Michigan is just another really indication that Dusty May nailed it here, and or that Ward Manuel and company nailed it with the Dusty May hire. So love the fact that people are kind of gravitating to him. I love the impression that he's made on a lot of these kids. We're going to be talking to a lot of these portal guys as well. It's funny. It was Darrell Brooks who told our Clayton Safety that he's going to be back next year, that he's going to be actually join the program after committing. So honors his commitment, and there's going to be a nice mix there, I think. So, but again, guys, I just can't wait to see what that first team is going to look like. I do expect them to be competitive, and I don't, you know, who knows what that means. People keep asking me that. Does that mean NCAA tournament in the first year? Does that mean competing for a Big Ten? I would say the former, right? That you at least get in there and get, be competitive enough that you can compete for a tournament berth.
Yeah, and if you are competing for a tournament berth, you might be competing for the Big Ten. I mean, 2 years ago, going into, a few games left in the season, Michigan was tied for second in the Big Ten, despite being a really underwhelming team that ended up missing the tournament. So, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy by any means, but like you can get in the mix pretty quickly. Way too early. Yeah, everyone asks, how are they going to do, or do you think they make the tournament? They have 4 players. Like they don't even have a starting 5 at this point. So we'll see how it goes in terms of who they pick up. But I mean, you said it, like the indications, like every box that Dusty May could check so far, in terms of things he's doing and in terms of, just other indicators like a Mike Boynton joining the staff have been really positive. So yeah, I'm excited. Dead period ends midweek here. They can get guys on campus, and then I think you'll start to see more movement and some commitments on the transfer portal front. Then you start to get a clear picture of, okay, this domino falls. Now what more do they need? It's hard to say exactly at this point when you don't have anybody in the fold, and it's like, all right, is this kid, going to be good enough? Or is that kid going to be good enough? Well, we don't know what role they're going to play based on who else they get. So that's going to be really fun to follow, all the different moves as we go forward.
Something else maybe to keep an eye on too. I mean, we talk about this board expanding each day with transfer portal guys becoming available. I'm curious, there's the coaching carousel is still going on. And now when you have a seismic move like, a John Calipari going to Kentucky, it's everything down from, the USC guys who, Eric Musselman's there now. Like there are all these pieces that are still, does Calipari in Arkansas, get involved with a Nelly Davis, or do guys from Arkansas that were maybe high school recruits ask out of their letters of intent and become back in place? So to me, I mean, there's a lot still to sort out. This board, I think, will probably keep expanding before we have any clarity on who's coming yet. But let's take this one from John Cook really quick, who says update on any portal commits. I mean, again, with the board being as wide as it is, I would say, are there maybe 2 or 3 names right now? We've heard Vlad Golden. We know all of the FAU guys, and Elijah Martin went in the portal with a do not contact tag, which oftentimes means the guy knows where he's going too. So I guess who are some other names outside of those FAU guys that we should be looking at?
Yeah, Golden is one that we talked about earlier. I think he's coming. Barring some crazy offer thrown at him. I think, and then the 2 guys that we know that are visiting are Connor Esigian and Dante Maddox. I think Kerry Booth is another one that we will watch closely. It is very clear that he likes Michigan. He likes the way they play. He's one of the 5. So I would say as the visits are set up, that's when we're really going to get a better idea of who they're really, really serious about. Right now, it's kind of taking names, seeing who's interested. And then when you get them on campus, it's about seeing the fit. So those are the 3 right now. I think you'll see Namari Burnett on this team. I think you'll see Will Cheddar on this team. Maybe Terrence Williams comes back. Who knows? What were some of the other teams on his list? And I see Notre Dame on his list as well earlier today. So when he actually put out a list. So, but those are the ones right now. And, we're keeping an eye on Janelle Davis as well. That one could go a little bit longer. I think he's going to go through the NBA process and see how high that money cannon gets, fellas. It's going to go up and up as teams get more and more desperate here for players.
Yeah, and Nelly Davis is an incredible player as well. He's the number 3 player in the transfer portal right now, according to On3. And I mean, watching him play over the last couple of years, he's kind of the straw that stirred the drink when it comes to what FAU did. And a guy that literally, could come in and be first, second team All Big Ten, in my opinion, on a Michigan team next year, or any team next year, first team All Conference, wherever, at a high major, or go to the NBA. Probably not going to be drafted or maybe second round or whatever, but like you said, he'll go through that process. And then the interesting question too becomes, you get Vlad Golden. Michigan would certainly want to still add Danny Wolf, the 7-footer from Yale. Would he want to come and play with Vlad Golden? Michigan needs a couple big guys, so I think that they certainly could fit together and kind of complement each other, not necessarily on the floor at the same time, but that'll be kind of an interesting domino too, because you could be pretty set at center, which is kind of ironic too, right? Given, Michigan had bigs under Juwan Howard. They didn't have as many guards maybe as they needed, but it'd be kind of funny if Dusty solidifies the center spot right away, and maybe that's how it'll go. It'll just be a coincidence, but he'd be another good addition as well. A guy who can shoot, can kind of do it all from the center spot, and plays a little bit differently than Vlad Golden.
Yeah, really quick on Terrence Williams. He told High School Hoops, I believe was the account that he is hearing from Michigan, Butler, Vanderbilt, Pitt, St. John's, Louisville, UCLA, USC, VCU, Notre Dame, UCF, and Xavier. So obviously he declares for the NBA draft and enters the portal last week with the option of returning. So I think that there is probably a spot for him